This is chapter 11, and I wanted to talk to you about your homework, first of all, give you some hints to kind of help you set these up correctly. So in chapter 11, what we're working on is called relevant cost. And relevant costs are different between two alternatives. And so if I'm trying to decide whether to go to Oklahoma City or Dallas for the weekend, the cost of purchasing my car is it's irrelevant to the decision. I already have the car. It's a sunk cost. The cost of gas to go to Oklahoma City as opposed to the gas to go to Dallas is relevant because that is different between my two decisions. And so when you work through these problems, sometimes it's hard to figure out what's relevant and what's not relevant. So the best thing to do, so in number 24, and this is your homework. Oh, it's not. That's not correct. Hang on. The best way to set this one up, so in this one you have a special order. And so what this means by special order is typically fixed costs are irrelevant because fixed costs are not going to change with a special order. And so the first question says, should they accept this? And so what you want to do is you want to set up, and there's several examples in your book, but you can do incremental revenue and incremental cost. But what I prefer to do, what makes more sense to me, is set up a spreadsheet and look at the two alternatives. So you've got the without the one-time only special order. My computer seems to have a mind of its own today, and it's running really slow. Wonderful. Okay, without the one-time only special order, and the special order is 10,000 units. And then you would have another column that would say with the one-time special order of 10,000 units. And then you would have a column that looks at the difference, which is the 2,000 units. Oh, sorry, this should be 12. Okay, and then what I would do is I would come over here. So I've got my column, so I kind of know what I want to do here. And I would come over and I would look at my revenues, my variable cost, which are direct materials, so y'all are just going to have to forget you saw that message that just popped up. I have to explain it now. So my middle daughter is in the Air Force. She's a pilot. And my oldest daughter has just been accepted into the Air Force as a pilot. I mean, sorry, not the Air Force, the Navy as a pilot. And they're currently discussing what's better, Air Force or Navy. So I apologize if you saw that. Then direct manufacturing labor. And then variable manufacturing overhead cost. And then we'll look at our fixed cost. And what you're going to see in this problem is that they're not different. So you've got fixed manufacturing overhead, which we've talked about numerous times, and fixed marketing. And with that, you've got total cost, and then you have operating income under each scenario. And you can make a decision then whether or not to accept the special order. Now this particular, the way I'm analyzing this one is I'm putting all of the cost on here. Without the order, with the order, and then the difference. And this column right here is what we call the relevant cost. Okay, and with that, you should be able to answer the rest of this problem. Now, number 28 is the selection of the most profitable product. And so in this one, we have two basic types of weightlifting equipment. We have Model 9 and Model 14, and they give us the information on each one. We've got the selling price, the cost, the operating income, and they tell us that they can sell enough of either Model 9 or Model 14 to keep the plant operating at full capacity. Both products are processed through the same production departments. Which one should they produce? So what they're saying is the market's out there to sell either one of these products. Now, one thing you've got to keep in mind, this fixed manufacturing overhead, keep an eye on that as we work through this problem. And I'm not going to do the problem for you, but I am going to help you get it set up. So what you want to figure out is, this is called a constrained resource. We have a limit somewhere. Somewhere we can't do, maybe we don't have enough direct materials, it's not available, or we don't have enough machine hours, or we don't have enough direct labor hours, or we don't have enough square footage. And so we have to make a decision. So in this one, the key to the problem is the relationship of the manufacturing overhead. And so what we want to look at is the machine hour. So what you're trying to find is the contribution margin per machine hour. That's what you're looking for. And with that information, and you're going to try to find that for Model 9 and Model 14. Now, you know what contribution margin is. It's sales minus variable cost. And you have your machine hour information because it tells you that fixed manufacturing overhead is allocated on the basis of machine hours. And remember how I kept telling you guys that this course just keeps building on itself? That's back in that chapter where we talked about allocating manufacturing overhead. And so you've got to take that into consideration as you're answering this question. And that's really all you need to answer this question. So again, the key is looking at fixed manufacturing overhead, and you might have to look back at that chapter, allocated based on machine hours. You might have to look back at that chapter at allocating overhead just as a refresher. Okay, the next one you have is problem number 1135. And in this one, we've got capacity constraints. So it's very similar. It's asking the question, suppose they can acquire all the fabric that they need. What is the minimum price the company could charge? And now suppose the fabric is in short supply, every yard of fabric. Okay, so in number 1 and number 2, we're looking for two different things. This is the contribution margin per, remember, it's per your constrained resource. So you're looking for the contribution margin for fabric. I'm trying to read the problem as I talk, so give me just a second. Contribution margin per pair of pants is obviously your selling price minus your variable cost. And then we've got to figure out on your fabric. So what you're looking for, pants require 6 yards of fabric. They give you that in the problem. It's up in your data. And so you want to find your contribution margin per constrained resource. And your constrained resource is a yard of fabric. So, for example, and I'm not using accurate numbers here because I don't want to give you the answer, but if my contribution margin is $100 and I need 5 yards of fabric to complete 1 unit of whatever it is I'm making, then my contribution per constrained resource is $20 per yard. And so what that means is for every one of these units I make, okay, hang on, my computer's